The St. Charles County Veterans Museum is a 501c3 nonprofit business. The museum would not exist without the donations of our generous community. Your donations ensure the museum continues to share and preserve the stories of our veterans. Would you like to be part of something special? To donate, visit sccvetsmuseum.org and click on Donate. Joe Rumbolo's Medicare Made Easy works hard for our veterans. Did you know you may be eligible to enroll in a Medicare plan and keep your VA health and life benefits? We can offer a Medicare Advantage plan specifically designed for veterans and spouses who are entitled to VA health benefits. Champ VA or TRICARE for Life may offer benefits you might otherwise not receive. We can find a plan that best suits your needs. Call Joe at 314-753-0792. That's 314-753-0792. The Dog Tag Podcast may at times cover sensitive topics including, but not limited to, suicide, abuse, violence, severe mental illness, sex, drugs, and alcohol addiction. You are advised to refrain from watching or listening to the Dog Tag Podcast if you are likely to be offended or adversely impacted by any of these topics. Neither the company, host, director, or guests shall at any time be liable for the content covered, causing offense, distress, or other reaction. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only. The primary purpose of the Dog Tag Podcast is to educate. The views, information, or opinions expressed on the Dog Tag Podcast are solely the views of the individuals or guests involved and by no means represent absolute facts. The Dog Tag does not accept responsibility for their views or comments. Welcome to the Dog Tag Podcast at the St. Charles County Veterans Museum with your host, Jason Galvin, today at the museum for Vietnam Veterans Remembrance Day. Good afternoon, Mayor Hennessy. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, buddy. How about yourself?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for joining us on the Dog Tag Podcast at the St. Charles County Veterans Museum here at Vietnam Veterans Remembrance Day. I have a couple questions for you when it comes to the city of O'Fallon. O'Fallon is a huge supporter of veterans in the museum here in O'Fallon. Do you remember when Ralph, our founder, approached you or the city, and what gave you the idea to use the building?
Well, actually, Sheldon Hartsfield, they were having the veterans thing up at City Hall where the folks can come in, and they had a bunch of things up there, and he came in and introduced me to Ralph, and Ralph gave me we were standing out in the lobby, and Ralph kind of gave me his dream of what he wanted. And at the time, we were tearing down Civic Hall because it was, wasn't safe. And we were building a new Krekel Civic Center, and I knew that this place was going to be available. And I just looked at Ralph and I said, I may have a building for you. And from that point, it took a couple years to do because we still had stuff here until Krekel got built. And it came down, and they voted people for the parks for parks tax, and the rest is you can call us history.
History, right? Very well said. Now, the county, and particularly O'Fallon, is very supportive of our veterans. What is the benefit to the community of having a museum like this in O'Fallon?
The benefit is just amazing. I mean, you get folks from all over. I've talked with Mr. Higgins, and they got folks from all over the country coming to visit this museum, and it's just to bring people in and to show the people who gave the ultimate sacrifice.
Absolutely.
So I mean, it's you got to appreciate what the veterans have done for this country, and not only this country, but the state and this great city of O'Fallon.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I know that the museum is very grateful to the city of O'Fallon for this building, this opportunity to be able to remember our veterans in St. Charles County and in the state of Missouri and all over the world. What does it mean to you for a day like today where we remember our Vietnam veterans?
It's sobering. You have to remember them because, when these guys came back home, they were not welcomed home, which is very disheartening to me. And they need to, be welcomed home for what they did. They fought for their country, and to me, some gave the ultimate sacrifice. And I had a cousin that gave the ultimate sacrifice in Vietnam. So to me, they need to be welcomed home and be thanked for what they've done for our country.
Well, thank you, Mayor, so much for joining me on the podcast today in our remembrance of our Vietnam veterans here at the museum. And thank you for your time. I appreciate you.
Jason. Appreciate it, buddy.
Appreciate you. All right, we have the Missouri Proud Patriots with us here at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial at the St. Charles County Veterans Museum. Today, I've got Jason and James with me from Proud Patriots. James, go ahead and tell us a little bit about what you guys do.
Well, we're an organization that is all about standing up for our first responders, our veterans, anybody who has done anything for our country. We like to recognize them when it's sad to say most people don't. We step in and we take over and we show them the recognition that they so badly deserve.
And Jason, tell us a little bit about what you do with these guys.
I just help promote. Well, he's promotion manager, but I'm just help. I'm one of the cogs in the wheel, I guess you could say.
Well, we love cogs in the wheel. Tell us about today, what you guys did today.
Today we helped escort the AMVETS 106 AMVET riders in. We were behind them with numerous flags, numerous big flags. I think our tallest flagpole was probably 12.6 with I don't know, Jason, would you say 8x5, 5x8?
5x8.
And we love supporting them. We love supporting the patriotism. It's what we're here for.
And Jason, why is this so important to you? Why are you involved?
I'm involved because I think we have to really get the patriotism out to the next generation and keep this going. Because I feel that patriotism doesn't stop with us. We have to keep it going, the next generations. We have to make sure we honor every single vet that has ever served. It doesn't matter if they've never been in combat. If they've ever wore that uniform, we should be honoring them some way, because they're doing something that the rest of us didn't have the chance to do or just didn't do.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. And James, tell us how you feel about today specifically when we're celebrating and remembering our Vietnam veterans here at the museum.
I think it's not only one of the most important things, but we like my partner Jason said, we need to be here to show that they're not forgotten, that show our younger generation, hey, this is what our forefathers and our grandfathers and our parents, they've all fought for. This is one of the iconic wars in history that do not need to be forgotten. It seems nowadays that too many of our wars and too many things that have been done for our country have gone unnoticed and forgotten, especially with the way today is. Any positive thing that we have done for our country, it needs to be honored and needs to be recognized and needs to be shown.
Absolutely.
So if there's another organization that would like to host you guys and bring you guys over, how can they get a hold of you?
That's very easy. All you have to do is go onto Facebook under our Missouri Proud Patriots. We are a private organization, and the reason we are a private organization on Facebook is to keep out all the riffraff, all the negativity. So all you got to do is send us an invite. You can look up my personal page, James Stammer, Stamer. I have the Herman PD badge on there for the Herman officer that was just fallen. You can look us up, send a request, and we typically respond within 0 seconds to a half hour. We're very quick to respond.
All right, Jason, anything else you'd like to tell our listeners before we get started with this memorial today?
I'd just like to follow up with some of the things that James said, that when we honor people, we want to honor, we do a lot of flag presentations, because let's face it, a lot of these guys, their families get a flag when they're passed. We want to give them one and say, we respect what you've done now, while they're still living. And I think that's very important. We've done several. If you check us out, like James said on our Facebook page, you'll see a lot of videos, pictures, different places we've been. I'm just very passionate about that particular part of it, because let's face it, we need to honor these guys, not only the fallen, but the ones that are here now, and while they're still with us.
Amen.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for stopping by and sharing what you do and how you do it with the podcast, the Dog Tag podcast at the St. Charles County Veterans Museum. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, guys, on the Dog Tag Podcast here on Vietnam Veterans Remembrance Day. I have who was our guest speaker today in our ceremony, Colonel Sam Digger. And the last name, sir?
DiGirolamo.
DiGirolamo. I love that. All right. So we really appreciate having you as our guest speaker here at Remembrance Day. A little bit about you. You were a pilot flying a T-33 in Vietnam and later an instructor pilot on T-38s. In 1976, you transferred to the Air National Guard with the 110th Fighter Training Squadron, where you finished your career with the Missouri Air National Guard.
That's correct. I flew F-100s in Vietnam, not the T-33.
Oh, okay.
So.
Well, we got that a little bit wrong. So what was that? Tell us one more time what you flew.
I flew F-100s in Vietnam. I was stationed at Phan Rang Air Base, which was south of Cam Ranh Bay and northeast of Saigon at the time. We had 4 squadrons of F-100s. I was in the 615th TAC Fighter Squadron. We had the 614th, the 612th, and the 352nd Squadron on base as well.
Well, we're so glad that you were here today. And if you would just give us a quick synopsis of kind of how you feel about today's date in Vietnam Veterans Remembrance Day and how it impacts you.
Well, the Vietnam War is probably the most divisive and most unpopular war of our time. It impacted me from the point of view that we were there to do a mission. We were there to help the South Vietnamese people. They appreciated our help. We could have won that war militarily. We won, but the political climate at the time was not so. I think our leaders underestimated the culture and the willpower of the North Vietnamese. They were there no matter how long it was going to take. They were going to win. They had that willpower. We did not. We were looking for a way out. And it's sad, but I still think all the people who served with honor and dignity. They were there. They were doing what their country asked them to do. And many of them lost their lives, and God bless them, and may they rest in peace.
Thank you, Colonel. We'll really appreciate having you here and for your insight there and for your remembrance. It's one of my goals on this podcast to remember the stories of our veterans. As a Gold Star family member myself, it's my obligation to carry on the stories of the people that I loved and the people that our community loves and that our nation loves. So we're really excited and glad that we were able to have you today, and we really appreciate you and thank you for your service. Welcome home, Colonel. Well,
I was glad to be here, and I see you have a name tag with the AC-130 gunship.
Yes,
and we flew escorts for those guys at night sometimes as well. And I had one mission in AC-130 at night. Hell of a mission. Their job was to shoot up the trucks on the road at night with 30 millimeter rounds, if I remember right. But they did a hell of a job.
Yes, they did. My dad flew AC-130 gunships in Desert Storm, and so that's why you see this around my neck. And I was killed in the opening days of the air war in Desert Storm, along with 13 of his brothers. So, but this is why I'm here at the museum, to remember our veterans, to remember our heroes and the veterans that are still with us, and to tell stories like yours and like your brothers that you fought alongside with. So thank you again, Colonel, and we appreciate your time.
Well, thank you.
Okay, welcome to the Dog Tag Podcast of the St. Charles County Veterans Museum, sir, on Vietnam Veterans Remembrance Day. Can you introduce yourself to us?
Yes, my name is Bob Blake. I'm the chaplain for the Vietnam Veterans of America, Chapter 458 in St. Peter's, and as well the chaplain for the Marine Corps League Detachment 725 in St. Charles County.
Well, thank you so much for being here today to remember our Vietnam veterans, and we appreciate your service, and we welcome you back home, sir, as a Vietnam veteran. And can you tell us a little bit about what Vietnam Veterans Remembrance Day means to you?
Well, it's become a very soothing and healing ceremony and a day in general that we can relax and be with our brothers during ceremonies like this. And it's usually good times to remember good stories, and it also allows the public to be to make awareness is the word I'm trying to find.
Yes, sir.
We have a chance to give the public awareness that the war, while bittersweet and has a multiple viewpoints from anybody, we still the truth is we never lost a major battle in 11 years, and military-wise, we have set records and advancements that even are bearing fruit today, even nowadays. So it's a very good time of reflection, a good time of celebrating each other, because obviously we weren't celebrated at all when we came home 50 years ago. And things have turned around to the point now where ceremonies like this, we can feel good about each other and ourselves.
Oh, very well said, sir. Very well said. And like I mentioned a minute ago, like you alluded to, you guys didn't get the welcome home that you deserved, that this nation owed you, and that we should have been as grateful then as we are now. And again, sir, welcome home.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right, welcome to the Dog Tag Podcast, guys. And your name, sir?
Jack Sutton.
And ma'am?
Lexi McCandless.
Well, thank you, Jack and Lexi, for joining me here on the podcast today at the Vietnam Veterans Remembrance Day at the St. Charles County Veterans Museum. Jack and Lexi, will you please tell us a little bit about what you guys do at the Veterans Museum?
So we take veterans that are from our local community and we interview them so that their story is never forgotten. And when we're done with that interview, we send it off to the Library of Congress so that they truly are never forgotten.
I love that.
Yeah, we just have a conversation with them, hear about their stories. We learn a lot from it, really. Better than anything I would learn at school. It's great for us, like a younger generation, to hear these stories and be involved with the veterans.
Go ahead, Lexi.
And even more importantly, it's more of a relief for the veteran. Most of the veterans who come, they're not willing or they're begrudgingly going to get the interview done, but then afterwards they tell us how relieved they are and how much of a weight has been lifted off their shoulders from doing the interview.
And what impact has it had for you guys as high school students?
It's really kind of put into consideration what they've gone through, and it's really just a whole different mindset hearing about some of the things they've had to go through.
And for you, Lexi?
It makes it more personable because when you're in school reading the textbooks about war and about our veterans, it's just people. Like, you don't have that personal connection. But when you do this in person and actually have that one-on-one conversation with them, it makes it more personable and it makes it real because you see that emotion that goes through their faces and through their eyes about what really happened. And you can see it.
Wonderful. So what technical aspects are there to this process?
It's not real technical, to be honest. It's just like, because we don't want to make it like a crazy
interrogation.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. We just want to have a conversation. We just talk to them pretty much from where they were born to what it was like coming home. We just talk to them, get their story.
We started off with a pre-interview phone call to get a little bio about them, and then we go on from there. Everybody thinks that it's a very tough process, but really we're just guiding a conversation along.
Yeah.
I love that. So it's really just getting together, having a conversation about their life and about their experience, and being able to save that for history by sending it to the Library of Congress.
Exactly.
I love that. Well, thank you guys so much for doing this for our veterans and for our community, for our nation. Is there anything you would want the listeners to know about any specific experience that you've had that was most impactful to you?
The most impactful experience that I have was watching a veteran after an interview come up to you and thank you. Thank you for interviewing them. In reality, we're the ones thanking them. And one veteran specifically, I thanked him for his service, and he came up to me afterwards, and he's like, "Oh, no, it's not that big of a deal. What you guys are doing are just as important as what we did." And that really stuck out to me.
We interviewed a man named Bob Leaker. He was very grateful for us interviewing him, and actually he sent us a letter through West High thanking us, having a thank you note for the interview, because he liked it so much. He thought it was really beneficial.
Well, you guys are doing an amazing job, and I know that the nation will be grateful for these stories to be archived the way that they are, and you guys are making your community very proud. So thank you both for using your time for this event and for doing this veteran stories. How many veteran stories have you guys done so far?
Together we've done 4, but I've done one before that, so I've done 5.
Okay. So we're well into it. You guys are getting a lot of experience. And what are you guys hoping to accomplish this year in relation to your veteran stories?
I hope that we can get more veterans, because right now it's maybe once a month. If we can, like what we're doing today, having the table, we've gotten, I think we have 5 or 6 papers.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that we can get it more upscaled, get more people that can start doing these interviews with us, get more interviewees.
Okay. Since the listeners that will be listening to this podcast don't have this paper, how could they get a hold of you if they want to be interviewed?
They can call up at the museum. They can look the museum up online and get the phone number or email to contact us. Or they can come up to the museum and talk to any of the volunteers here to get that information.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again, guys, for joining me on the podcast today. And congratulations for all the hard work that you've done. And we look forward to the work that you're going to continue to do.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. I've got Holly with Focus Marines here at the Vietnam Veterans Remembrance Day at the St. Charles County Veterans Museum. And Holly, can you tell us a little bit about the mission of Focus Marines?
Yes, actually, how we started was a bunch of Marines got together and realized that there was a gap between a mission, being in service, and then going into civilian life. We have a lot of our veterans will end up in a downward spiral, drugs, alcohol, and God forbid, suicide. And that's what we're trying to stop. So 4 times a year, we have a 7-day program, and these veterans come in and they get to think in a different way. What can they do with what happened to them instead of wallowing in what happened to them? And so these veterans are finding a new lease on life and a new mission. So now that they've lost a mission, now they're gaining one back.
Oh, I love that.
Yes.
I love that. Well, from what I've read and what I've heard, you guys do a retreat. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us what the retreat looks like?
So that's the 7-day program.
That's the 7-day program.
Exactly.
Okay, so that is the 7-day program.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and how many people do you guys have that are in the Focus Marine program right now?
Well, so...
And how does it work?
Yeah, so each class could be up to 30, but our favorite is about 20 to 25.
Okay.
And it started just as Marines, and then it went into like 30% of the class could be non-Marines, but now we're open to all branches because the need is so great that we don't want to tell a soldier no. So we're all brothers and sisters together, and the branch actually doesn't truly matter. The need matters.
Absolutely. So you help them get a fresh perspective on where they are currently in their journey.
Correct.
Okay. Where do you guys do these retreats at, and where are you guys located here? Are you guys in the St. Charles County area?
It's actually the actual Focus 7-day is at a farm in Augusta, Missouri.
Okay.
So that's the retreat, if you will.
And do they stay there overnight at the retreat?
They do.
Okay.
So, and all of this is at no cost to the vets. So we fly them in from wherever they are. A couple retreats or 7-day programs ago, we had Alaska to South Florida. So, and everywhere in between. So it's nice that these classmates, once they're graduates, they keep in touch with one another because they have a new bond and they keep each other accountable. Not only that, but twice a month we have a buddy check, and it's a Zoom class because all of our graduates get a laptop so we can stay in connection. So we have a buddy check once a month, and then we also have a refocus once a month. Sometimes it's reviewing what they've already learned. Sometimes it's new material. But now that brings all the classes together. So it's really a new family.
Oh, I love that. 2 states that I've lived in, Alaska and Florida. So I love that you mentioned those 2 states. But yeah, we're really grateful for organizations like yours who, help these veterans become whole again. And it's just amazing how many resources we have, but that not a lot of people know about these.
Yeah.
If someone's listening to this podcast, say around the world, and we get heard around the world, around the nation, how would they get a hold of you?
They could come to our website, focusmarines.org. That our executive director, Jennifer, she will be getting in touch with you. There is a vetting process, and then we get that help. There's so much that these veterans have done for us. This is the least we can do for them. And, we want to stop that 22 a day.
Very well said, Holly. And thank you so much for stopping by the podcast at the Vietnam Veterans Remembrance Day at the St. Charles County Veterans Museum.
Thank you.
All righty. I've got Joe Rumbolo and Mike Graham here from Comprehensive Benefits. Welcome, Joe and Mike.
Thank you so much for having us today.
And we are here at the St. Charles County Veterans Museum on Vietnam Veterans Remembrance Day. And Joe, tell us a little bit about what you do for our veterans and how you help them.
Well, first of all, I'm an insurance broker. That means I represent all the major companies. And in this area, the St. Charles area, the St. Louis City, St. Louis County area, almost all the major carriers have plans that they specifically and especially designed for veterans, with really good medical benefits for those on Champ VA and TRICARE for Life, also for veterans who use the VA. And there's all kinds of extra benefits that the veterans usually don't get, like dental, vision, hearing. In some instances, the plans pay money back toward their Part B premium, gives them a quarterly allowance for over-the-counter products from the pharmacy. All in all the companies have really gone above and beyond. And what I really like is that every year they try to outdo each other. What that does is it benefits the veterans.
I love that. And Mike, tell us a little bit how you got this company started.
Yeah, so I kind of started my whole career in the nursing home business. So I was a nursing home administrator. I loved working with seniors. So I decided after, a lot of state regulations that come in and you can't really do what you really want to do, helping people the right way anymore, that I just kind of decided I was going to get into the insurance business. Went to work for one of the carriers for about 8 years and kind of cut my teeth and went out there and was an agent and worked with people individually. And lo and behold, a couple of years later, decided there's something bigger out there that I felt like I can touch more people. So we started an agency in 2014 with 12 agents. Today we're up around 55 agents. And the joy for me really is helping these agents find their purpose. They all want to be, everybody wants to make money, but we're teaching them the right way to do things and how to find your purpose and what really speaks to you, like the veterans. And so we have a handful of agents like Joe that really want to give back and help them with these plans.
I love that. And Joe, you and I have talked before about what you do and in how you do it. So you came out to Vietnam Veterans Remembrance Day here at the museum to share this experience with our Vietnam veterans. What does Vietnam Veterans Remembrance Day mean to you?
Well, Vietnam was happening when I was eligible for the draft, and I was not drafted. I was called by the Air National Guard, the Missouri Air National Guard, and I jumped right at it. And the gentleman that was speaking earlier from the Air Force who flew F-100s, that's the aircraft that I worked on in the Missouri Air National Guard with the F-100 fighter bombers. I was a weapons mechanic. I loaded bombs on airplanes, and I did 6 years. And there's always been, my dad, my uncles, they were all in World War II. My uncle was at the Battle of the Bulge. He was fortunate. He made it home. All my dad, my uncles, everybody made it home. So we were a very fortunate family. So it's always been a thing with me. There's always been a certain reverence, for the military and for the veterans. And this opportunity, when it came up, when it was first presented to us to work with veterans, that coupled with also being able to work with low-income people, I mean, we work with everybody, all right? But for me, there's a soft spot for the veterans and for the low-income people because these are folks that really, really need the help.
Very well said, Joe. And Mike, thank you so much for coming out today, too, and joining Joe and helping him foster relationships in the veteran community, and for allowing him to be a part of our podcast now for the second time, and for coming out to the museum. Is there anything you would want our listeners to know, Mike, about your company, or about how, in addition to what Joe said, how you're helping veterans?
I think there's a lot of agencies out there, and I think what I've really tried to do in building this agency, again, is not so much focus on the profits, but focus on the purpose. So if I can help enough people out there, start their own business, start their own agency, be successful, understand their purpose, then there's always going to be a win for me. And I think, in the nursing home business, we used to have a little saying, we take care of those who took care of us. And I think that's where my heart is with the veterans. My dad was in the Korean War, and it's just a level. I was never in the military, but it's just a level of respect that we're really trying to get more of our agents involved in.
Well, thank you so much, Mike. Any last words from you, Joe?
Hey, I invite everybody that's listening to this to listen to the Dog Tag podcast. Listen to every one of them, and in particular, listen to the one that with me and Colonel Ted Hodgson on it. We had a blast doing that with you. It was really great. We can't wait to come back.
It was an absolute blast. Our pleasure to have you join us in studio. And thanks for being here today at the Vietnam Veterans Remembrance Day at the St. Charles County Veterans Museum. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
The Dog Tag is brought to you by the St. Charles County Veterans Museum. The museum is a 501c3 nonprofit business. Do you like our podcast? With your support, we'll continue to bring you great programming. If you'd like to donate, go to sccvetsmuseum.org and click on Donate. This podcast is sponsored by the Renee Esri Allstate Agency, located here in O'Fallon, Missouri. She is licensed in Missouri and Illinois and focuses on your personal and commercial insurance needs. Her office is located at 2764 Highway K, O'Fallon, Missouri 63368. She can be reached at 636-379-9556 or by email at reneeessry@allstate.com, reneeessary@allstate.com. If you are shopping for insurance and want an active agent that will educate and advise you on the coverage you need, reach out to her.